Hey everybody, welcome back to another snowy day. Well, I guess it's not very snowy down here. Winter is finally catching up here in Michigan. Oh well, every time it snows, that's extra money for me. Anyway, where are we at? So, this past week I was mainly working on the landing gear, which is in there. But I wanted to get some more work done to make it worthy of making a video, so throughout late last night and this afternoon I finished up the hatch, at least mostly finished, got it covered at least. Guess we'll start back here so you can see where it ends here, comes up. Got that finished up. This butts right up to the back of the canopy, and the method I used for mounting the hatch does look pretty good. I can touch that up with some white paint on the inside if I wanted to, but honestly I'm not too concerned about it. But boy, does that hatch fit that fuselage nice. I mean, that really makes the airplane right there, to take your time and get that to where it's a nice smooth transition. So I did get my new canopy and it fits very well. Up in the front I did have to make some scabs to fill it in, or else the canopy wouldn't have covered it. But other than that, not a big deal. So when I covered it, I covered the white sides and I covered the back white. Did this piece up here, but I had to get the canopy in the exact position before I could put the red on the front. And right now the canopy is just sitting on there, and the red is supposed to go right into the bottom and disappear into the bottom of the canopy. And you can see where the bottom of the canopy is in the red. Of course, there's going to be a white, border all the way around the canopy. So on the inside, you can see where the red just kind of goes and stops. That's no big deal because that's not going to be visible once the border of the canopy is painted. But yeah, that all turned out nice. Same on the other side. Just disappears right in there once it's painted. Yeah, turned out quite nice. Pretty happy with the way everything's turned out so far. Made a couple boo-boos on the back. We're not going to talk about that, because if you don't know what's there, you'd never see it. So, I'm just not going to show you. Oh, excuse me. Let's see what else has been done. Oh, I hinged everything. I glued the hinges. So, I have always been a fan of epoxy for my hinges. Was thinking about doing the Gorilla Glue method, but I just don't really want to do that, just because I know it's the strongest, it's the strongest way to hinge because of the expansion of the glue, but I just hear so many horror stories that if you don't watch it the whole time it's drying, it could just ooze out of control if you use way too much glue. So I decided not to go that route. So I did the tight bond method, the wood glue. Well, I use Gorilla wood glue, the not expanding stuff, and they seem all right. I've never done it before, so I honestly don't know what to expect. I know a lot of the aerobatic guys have been doing that method for years, and the way that I did it, let's see, is I used just one of these cheap disposable syringes. Of course, I've had this syringe for several years, and I've picked up glue with it, paint, you name it, but I always wash it out and reuse it. So you fill this up with some glue, you stick it into the hole where the hinge goes, you fill it with glue, then you put just a little bit on the hinge itself, slide it in. It's all water cleanup. So that was nice. But I've always been a 5-minute epoxy guy. And I'm sure some of you are going to say, 5-minute epoxy, are you nuts? Well, the biggest thing for me with hinging is I'm not very patient. So 5-minute epoxy has been always what I use, because I got my method down to a science, so I can get an aileron hinged very quickly. And of course, after 10 minutes or so, you're done. You can proceed to the next portion. So, hopefully these will hold. I really don't like experimenting and going out of the norm. I figured, why not? Everybody seems to have really good luck with it. If anybody has had bad luck with it, please let me know, because I can always cut these hinges out and put new hinges in. I'd really rather not lose my airplane. But, I don't know. So many people seem to like it. So, hopefully it works. So next part of the canopy, or at least the hatch area, is I am going to paint the inside of it white. I don't know if I'm going to put a floor down. I might just put a brace across it and stick a pilot in there. I like to be able to look inside. If I have a canopy situation like this, I like to be able to look in and see my servos, my receiver, and all that good stuff. Yeah, it takes away from the scale looks of things, but I don't know. I just kind of like looking in there and seeing it. Makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. I was debating on if I was going to glue the canopy on or just screw it on, and I think I'm just going to screw it on. The sides here are hardwood, so I can put, probably, let's see, just try to think in my head, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, eight or so screws on each side, pushing it down while I screw it in. It'll be on there pretty good, and that way I can take the canopy off if need be. I really don't like gluing a canopy on unless I have to. But I do need to get the canopy secured before I paint it, because I'm going to paint it while it's on top of the hatch. So that way it's just going to help keep if I were to paint the canopy off of the hatch, you run the risk of paint going underneath and getting to the inside of the canopy, and you don't want that. So, that's where we're at there. Now, landing gear. I know a lot of you are thinking, I thought you were done with the landing gear. Well, the Chipmunk has these, at least the Super Chipmunk has these beautiful airfoiled fairings that go around the gear. Those were actually fairly simple to make. I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do, how I wanted to make them. So I want it to be strong, but I want it to be easy to work with. So I wanted to use foam as the main, the main fairing itself. You don't want to use styrofoam. You can use regular styrofoam, but styrofoam is very soft, very spongy. It can be kind of difficult to sand smooth because of how big the foam cells are. They just kind of go all over the place. So I just went and got, what is that, 3 foot? 3 foot by 3 foot or whatever. Just 1 inch insulation foam from the hardware store. And I made a template. I just sticky taped it to the size of the strut to give me, roughly the shape that I want. Took my template, cut out the foam, shaped it, and this stuff sands really nice. Really nice to sand. Then once it was shaped, I struck a line where I was going to cut it, and I cut it down the middle, at least right here. Then once it was separated, I used a soldering iron, and you can kind of see I opened up a channel on the inside. And by opening up that channel, I was able to put this fairing over top of the gear, front and back, and I filled it with I attached it with Gorilla Glue so it would expand. The expandable Gorilla Glue, not the wood glue. So I, goobered up the channels, both front and back with the Gorilla Glue, put it on there, taped it together, and that made a nice finish. Then I went over it with the Elmer's wood glue that I've been using for this project, just to kind of do a final, just to smooth it out, get it that little extra bit of shaping that I wanted, and then at that point it was already strong. I could have just covered it with monocoat and called it a day, but I decided to glass it with 6/10 ounce cloth and 2 coats of Z-epoxy resin. And now they're sanded, they're nice and smooth, they're ready for primer and paint. Turned out pretty good. But before I did that, I had to get the wheel pants set up. Now, personally, wheel pants is another one of those things I don't like. I don't like a whole lot, do I? I don't like mounted canopies, cowls, building covering, holy mackerel. I just don't like it. But you gotta do what you gotta do, right? So, I was asked this a while back, how am I going to get the wheel pants onto these axles? Because typically when you mount a wheel pant, like you have a set of main gear or something, that screws go through into the side of the wheel pant. You don't have that option here. I mean, I suppose you could, if you were talented enough, which I'm not, to solder or weld on just a bracket like on this side, and then have two holes they can run through into the wheel pant and hold it on. Yeah, me and working with metal just does not work too well. So I went with the B&B mounting system. Now these are still available through B&B Specialties or Specialist. I can never remember specialties or specialists. Anyway, B&B. They've been around forever. Kind of the go-to giant scale people for many years. It's so simple, but yet it can be a real bear to get it set up, because if you don't mount these little these mounts onto these blocks, you know, just perfect, your wheel pant can sit on your gear like this or like this. So that takes a little bit of measuring and finagling, but once you get it, it's really a slick method for mounting wheel pants, especially when you are just dealing with mounting them to axles. So I'll show you one here. So this is a completed gear leg. As you can see with the fairing, it looks good on there. And when the axle runs through, each mount has two screws at a 45 to each other, which go in at an angle. And it really locks it onto the axle. You don't have to grind any flats onto the axle. Because those screws go at each other at an angle, it kind of clamps it on there and keeps it straight and keeps it steady. But the nice thing is even though it is a strong setup, if for some reason this took an off-runway landing, or I set my wing down funny without it being attached to the airplane, and it, you know, came back and put a lot of pressure on the wheel pant, instead of breaking the wheel pant or breaking the mounts, if you jar it hard enough, you know, it will rotate. You know, it's just it's difficult for it to rotate because of the way these mounts go in. So yeah, I like that. That's slick. That works really good. So I need to do some final work on the wheel pants. Just they're really good quality, but the seam where they're put together is kind of rough, so I need to sand that out and do just a little bit of body work. I still have to run some glass cloth around both sides of the mounts just to make those nice and strong. And we should be good to go. But yeah, go to B&B's website. Just, you know, do a Google search for B&B's Specialties or Specialists. I can never remember. And they still sell these, so just buy a few packages of them. Why the hell not? That's a good product. I still have to trim the screws, obviously, but yeah, that made it nice. That made it nice. Sorry about that. I had to sneeze. So I've been accumulating a lot of stuff. I got some retracts here. So I got bags of, you know, all sorts of goodies. Pull system for the rudder. All my ball links for the push rods. Everything's looking good. I got switches. We're ready to go. So I got servos on the way. As soon as the servos come, I'm gonna get the wing done first. That's kind of always been my method. I always do the wing first. And doing pull for the rudder and for the tail wheel. I think I'm going to use the cables for the rudder only, and I'm going to use the nye rods as is for the tail wheel. I think that's how I'm going to do it, because there's not enough material in here to do the rudder and the tail wheel. You can see how that all mounts on there. that's gonna work out good. Good old Dubro hardware. You can't beat it. It's good stuff. Trying to think if there's anything else. I think that was it. It was not an extremely productive week, even though it was, but you know, not too much stuff to show. I did just order the muffler, so as soon as I get that, I can final fit the cowl, make whatever cutouts are necessary. Then once that's done, I can do the, you know, the same body work to the cowl that I need to do on the wheel pants, and get that ready to go. I'm probably not going to paint these or the canopy or the wheel pants, landing gear, or anything until probably in March, because I do have to paint them at work. I can't paint them here. You know, tiny little house. Painting in the house makes the wife upset. And painting outside is not an option because it's too damn cold. So, trying to figure out what all I'm going to get done this next week. I think I'll probably get the inside of the hatch painted, maybe get a pilot figure in there, then get the canopy bolted on. I might get that painted up, we'll see. But it's to the point now where all of the building, and actually now the covering is done. I don't think I have to put one more piece of covering on this airplane. It's done. Oh, and I got my graphics on the way, so we're set. We're all set. Oh goodness. So I think I'm gonna go upload this video and take a nap. That sounds good. All right, everybody. Later.